Welcome to your assessment video. So you can come back to this one at any time to track your progress and not only your strength, but also your flexibility. Before you start this video, make sure you've done a bit of a warm-up that you can do in episode 2. We're going to focus on mobility and strength in our shoulders and thoracic spine, flexibility and strength in our hips, quads, and hamstrings, as well as some core engagement to build strength and support in our pelvic floor and lower back. So the first time you do this sequence, it might be a little frustrating and you might find your limits are really short and it's hard to do a lot of the poses, but that's the point. You want to keep coming back to this so you can track your progress and see how far you've come. So don't give up, keep going through the program, and come back to this video anytime you need to see your progress. Let's get started. We're going to take our hands, interlace your fingers, and bring it to the back of your head. Pressing your thumbs into the bottom part of your skull, and trying to pry your fingers off the back of your head so that your palm is facing upward. Make sure your stance is grounded. So by taking a slight bend in your knees and tucking your tailbone in, it helps keep a neutral spine so you can bring the focus to the upper part of your body. We're going to take 5 deep breaths here. Each time we inhale, try and lift through the crown of your head. And as you exhale, pull your elbows back, creating a little bit of pressure between your thumb and your skull. Inhaling to lift. Exhaling to open the shoulders, open the chest, pulling the elbows back. 3 more breaths here. Each time, trying to push a little deeper into the body, keeping our neck long, keeping our breath deep, and keeping our focus to the chest and shoulders. Release to take your hands all the way up, straightening out your legs, pressing your feet down, and pressing your palms up. As you release your arms out to the side, take your fingertips to your shoulder, and we're going to gently twist side to side. So you want to make sure that your stance is grounded once more, keeping your knees slightly bent, your tailbone tucked, and trying to keep your hips stationary, allowing for the twist to happen through the mid part of your belly and your shoulders. As we come back to center, take your hands behind your back and interlace your fingers. Reaching the palms down towards your heels, keep the weight into your heels as well. Inhale, lift your chin and jaw, looking to the ceiling. Start to fold forward, letting your knees bend so that your belly is coming onto the thighs. As you reach your arms up, bow your head down. The deeper you keep your knees bent, the closer you'll be able to bring your chest onto the thighs. Find this as some support to make sure you have a flat spine. Each breath you take, keep pressing into your feet, letting your head hang soft, and reaching your hands up and over. Being patient with your body and moving with the breath. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Start to bend your knees again, dropping your hips down, lift your gaze, and come all the way up to stand before releasing your arms. Taking your hands by your side, take a moment to see how your body feels. As we drop our chin to our chest, I want you to imagine coiling your spine down vertebrae by vertebrae. Let your shoulders round, sliding your hands down the thighs, coming all the way down to the ground. It's okay if your knees bend. As we inhale, we're going to roll up vertebrae by vertebrae, coming all the way to stand. Let's try and do this with 1 breath and 1 movement. Take a big inhale, exhaling to roll down for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhaling up, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Once more. Big breath in. Exhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Inhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Taking your hands overhead. Inhale, reach all the way up. Exhale, fold forward, taking your hands down to the ground. We're going to take a moment in our forward fold. So just see where you naturally hang. Keeping your knees slightly bent, spread your toes wide. You can even take your hands to help spread the toes out so that they're not touching one another. Start to sway your hips, shake your head, and even if your hands aren't touching the ground, you can use your legs as support, or you can grab your elbows. Imagine the energy coming up through the ground, traveling up the backs of your legs, and flowing over your spine, down, out towards your shoulders and the top of your head. Feeling as the back body starts to release and soften. Taking your hands down to the ground, we're going to come onto all fours. Focusing on a bit more strength in our upper back so that we can have better posture. First, we're going to start by taking one hand directly in front of where your heart is. Knees should be slightly wider. When you're first assessing where your range of motion is in the thoracic spine, you want to start to feel like you have some success in the pose. As we inhale, we want to reach up with as much energy coming from our top hand as our bottom hand, trying to stack our wrists and shoulders in a line through both arms. Exhale, wrap the arm under and tap your opposite shoulder. We're going to do this 5 times. Inhaling to reach up and exhaling to tap. It's really important to follow our breath here because we're using our inhale to help create space and open the chest. And we're using the exhale to move into it. If this starts to feel easier, you can make it more challenging by taking the same leg that is on the outside as your arm is up and bringing it in line with your hand that is down. Now you've created a straight line from your shoulder to your hip, and the twist will become more intense. On our final round, we're going to hold, taking 5 breaths. Each inhale pressing more firmly into our bottom arm. Each exhale finding a deeper twist. Keep your gaze towards the thumb. Keep your focus on the mid-belly. And breathe. Taking 2 more breaths. And on your final exhale, take your arm all the way down, dropping your shoulder to the mat, taking your stance a little wider, and finding a twisting child. Hold here for as long as it feels good. And then return to the other side. I'm going to turn over so that you can see the full posture. Taking your left hand in front now, you're going to inhale and reach your right arm up. Again, making sure that you have just as much energy coming from your top arm as you do pressing down into the ground. Exhale, bring your arm under and tap your opposite shoulder. Following your breath, inhale, reach up, and exhale, tap. Inhale, reach up, and exhale, tap. If you want to make this more challenging, take the same leg that is on the same side as your arm reaching up and bring it in line with your hand. Finding a deeper twist, make sure your hips stay stationary, and exhale, tap. Inhale, reach up. This time we're going to hold for 5 breaths. Each inhale, think about creating more space in your chest, and each exhale, try and twist deeper. Holding 3, 2, and 1. On your final exhale, take your arm, swing it underneath, dropping your entire shoulder down to the ground, twisting your arm around to twisting child. When you feel your body has relaxed, come back into all fours, stacking your hands under your shoulders and your knees under your hips. So now we've warmed up our chest and our thoracic spine. We're going to bring our awareness a little lower down to our core. So starting with a few cat-cow breaths, just to sync your breath and your body up. Taking 3 full rounds, bringing more awareness right to where your lower stomach is. Think about pinching your hip bone and your bottom rib towards one another and even holding for a little extra engagement before moving on to your next breath. Finding a neutral spine, we're going to curl our toes under, lifting our knees 1 inch above the mat. Now as you hold here, think about bringing the backs of your wrists to the tops of your knees and the tops of your thighs to the backs of your wrists. Holding 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. On our next stretch, we're going to take our left leg out and our right arm. So just finding opposites. As you press, you want to think about your heel being connected to your knee and your knee being connected to your hip, pulling the lower left part of your body back. As you reach with your arm, think about your hand being connected to the elbow and your elbow being connected to your shoulder, pulling your shoulder up and outward. So we're creating lots of space in our belly. Finding a nice big breath to get really long. And exhale, bring the elbow and knee towards one another to touch. Finding 5 rounds to inhale and lengthen. And exhale and touch. Inhale and lengthen. And exhale and touch. On your last round, we're going to bring our elbow and knee together and hold. Bringing this connection as high up in towards your chest as you can. Find 5 breaths, keeping your focus on your body, grounding down through your knee and your hand, and watching as the breath comes and goes. Hold for the last 5 or as long as you can, and return back to all fours. Remember, you can break up the sequence at any time, finding your cat-cow or a downward dog or child's pose. Coming to the other side, reach up the opposite arm and the opposite leg, inhaling to create space from shoulder to hip, and exhale to bring the elbow and knee together. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale together. 3 more rounds. Following the rhythm of your breath. 2. And on the final round, as we inhale, Bring the elbow and knee to touch, and draw that connection as high up into your chest as possible. Holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Coming onto all fours. Step your hands out a little higher and your feet back, curling the toes under, and come into downward dog. So if you felt like the previous pose was a success, this next one is a little more challenging. Making sure that your foot is firmly planted on the ground, we're going to pick up one leg, and it doesn't have to come high off the ground, just a few inches so it's not touching, and the opposite arm. The trick here is to keep your hand that is down, keep the shoulder completely contracted, using your fingertips and using your toes to help counterbalance your weight. Hold for as long as possible, or at least up to 5 breaths. If you start to feel more confident here, you can take your hand by your hip and reach the foot up. It's important to not think about balancing down, but to think about lifting up. Return back to downward dog, finding some perfect alignment in your body so that your shoulders and hips are squared, and then try the other side. At first, just reaching the foot a few inches off the ground, and then the opposite arm. Focus your gaze, focus your breath, and notice where your hand and feet meet the ground. If you feel good here, try taking your arm towards your hip and reaching a little higher. Remember, we're not balancing down, we're lifting up. Returning into your downward dog, hover forward into your plank, taking the toes together. Squeeze the glutes, round your shoulders, pressing your hands down, and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Rest on all fours, and step your right foot up and curl your back toe under, coming into a low lunge. So before we go any deeper in our stretch, it's important to warm up our muscle first. We're going to do this by taking a little bend in our back knee, dropping it almost to the ground, and then straightening it all the way out by pressing into your heel. Focusing on the quad and warming up the muscle. On our final pulse, straighten the leg and get as low as you can in your hips. Bringing your hands overhead, reach the fingertips up and pull the thumbs back, opening up your heart and chest. Releasing your hands down to the inside of your foot and drop your knee back down to the ground. We're going to straighten out our front leg. Now we're focusing on stretching the back and our hamstring. Take your hands on either side of your leg to help frame, and then pull the toes back. Pointing and flexing your foot, searching for those different sensations in the leg, and really articulating with your toes that all 5 are pointing down to the ground. Now, as you move through this posture, pause in different spots to help explore and move the hips around when your foot is flexed and when your foot is pointed. And moving back into your low lunge, hands on the inside of your foot. We're going to curl our toe under, lift our knee, and walk over to the other side. Resting your leg down to the ground, bringing your hands to your hips, curl your toes under, and lift up your leg, finding 5 small pulses, just like we did on the other side. Focus on keeping your hips stationary. Your hands can help. On your final pulse, fully straighten the leg, pulling your kneecap up and trying to drop a little lower in your front hip. Inhale to reach your arms up overhead, extending through the fingertips and pulling the thumbs back. Open your chest and heart. Bringing your hands back down to the ground. Drop the knee and straighten out your front leg. Again, we're pointing and flexing our foot, moving slowly and with precision. If your hands don't quite come to the ground yet, you can always take some blocks or books or even a water bottle. Bringing your foot back down to the ground, take your hands to the inside, curl your back toes under, and step back into your plank. Shifting your weight all the way into downward dog. Hopefully now your hamstrings feel a little bit more warm, and you can focus on straightening out your back. Do this by bending your knees, bringing your belly onto the thigh, and then tilting the sit bones up. Slowly feel heaviness in your heels. Start to ground them, straightening your legs by pulling the kneecaps upward. To get a slightly deeper stretch in your calves, try and lift all 10 toes off the mat. Bringing your toes down and hover forward. Lowering onto your belly for a count of 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. The slower you can lower, the better, making sure that your body is active from your shoulders all the way down your spine, down to your heels. Coming into one baby cobra before our final stretch. Bring your hands to the ground and imagine that traction feeling of pulling the palms back towards your hips, keeping the elbows in and your neck long. Press down through the tops of your feet, lift your knees, and squeeze your buttocks, keeping the whole back body tight so the front of your body can release. Make sure to let your breath flow. Holding for 2 more inhales. Lower your chest back down to the ground. Taking both of your arms out to the side. Flip your left leg over and bring your left hand in towards your chest. Moving slowly and with your breath. If you start to feel any sort of pinching sensation in your hip, just straighten the leg. Letting the spiral fascia release all the way from your shoulder across your belly to the opposite hip. If this stretch is feeling comfortable for you, try bringing one foot onto the mat and then the other. Watch as your breath comes and goes. With each exhale, allowing yourself to sink deeper and deeper into the pose. Slowly straighten one leg out and then the other. Coming onto the other side, bring your right hand in and flip your right leg over. following your breath. Each inhale, allow for your body to get big and even slightly roll out of the pose. Exhale to feel heavy, allowing gravity to do most of the work for you. Remember, if it feels more comfortable, you can straighten out both your legs. Or if you'd like to try going a little deeper in your spinal twist, take one foot onto the mat, followed by the other. Watch as your breath comes and goes. Surrender to your body and let the pose work for you. Straightening out one leg and then the other. Slowly release back onto your stomach. Take your hands under your shoulders, pressing up onto all fours. Let your knees come as wide as the mat, sitting back into child's pose. Let your forehead rest on the mat, feeling the weight of your arms, noticing where your legs connect with the ground, getting a true sense of yourself and this body that you're in. Letting go breath by breath as we come to a close. Slowly start to walk your hands back up, sitting on your heels or finding a cross-legged position. You are the healer and the healed, the lover and the loved, the peacekeeper and the peaceful. Remember, you can come back to this sequence anytime to see your progress and your strength and your flexibility. Remember to keep watching and keep flowing with me as we continue on our yoga journey.